Comcast business, and we're talking about that guy right there. New addition to the Golden State Warriors, Kelly Oubre Jr. His season has gotten off to a rough start. Of course, we know about the three-point woes, 6 for 35 from the perimeter. If he didn't shoot a three-pointer this season, Darrell and Millie, the Warriors would be fourth in three-point percentage. Right now, they're 19th in Comcast business. We're presenting our very own Warriors insider here, Kareth Burke. Every connection counts, and Kareth, I know you talked to Steve Kerr about Kelly Oubre Jr., who is struggling, didn't play in the last 15 minutes and change Friday night against the LA Clippers. What did you hear about Oubre from Steve Kerr?
Well, we know that Oubre is frustrated. You said it. He's 6 of 45 right now from three. Looking at more of the numbers, he's only shooting 33% from the field. Clearly frustrated. You know, would some of the pressure come off of Oubre a little bit if, say, he took on a bench role? And Steve was asked about that right away after the last game, and Steve said, as far as whether there's going to be any changes to the starting lineup, Steve said, I do not anticipate that. And I also followed up with Steve at practice yesterday just to hear a little bit more about some of the things that are impacting Oubre right now, and here's what Steve said.
Obviously, the slow start for Kelly is more just about a lack of flow with our starting group, and that's something we're trying to address. It's always tough to go to a new team and find your role, find your rhythm, and I think that's what's happened with Kelly. He's handled it beautifully, brings a positive approach and a smile to practice every day. But I know this is eating him up inside because he's a competitor. So we're just trying to help him relax and understand it's a long, long season, and things will smooth out.
So it is clear that Steve wants Oubre to have time to find his rhythm and his confidence. And it is very important that Steve is saying this stuff publicly, because if Oubre is getting in his own head with this frustration, at least he knows exactly where he stands with his coach. There's no wishy-washiness like, well, we'll have to see about the starting lineup, maybe. Steve is making that absolutely clear. No changes right now. So he has his coach, Steve has his back publicly, and that's very valuable. So what Oubre needs right now is time. And you have to consider when at least Oubre is trying on defense. For example, he leads the team in steals right now. When he's making that effort on offense with the rebounds, he's second in rebounding right now. He's still in the good graces. They're giving Oubre a little bit more time to acclimate to the team.
All right, Kareth. And by the way, shout out to Kareth Burke. You have thrown nothing but fastballs in the pre, post, and practice sessions to Steve Kerr, Draymond Green. You've been on the money. So, Kareth, we'll talk to you a little bit later. Thanks for that breakdown here. And Kelly Oubre Jr., the man in the hour, Darrell and Mully. This guy can't find a bucket. He didn't play in the last 15 minutes. And hopefully tonight is the night the Warriors unlock Kelly Oubre Jr. And how can they do that, Mully? How can the Warriors get this guy going?
Well, as Kareth Burke said, and Steve Kerr also said, he hasn't let his shooting woes affect his overall impact on the game. He's played great defense. When he gets those steals, a lot of times they lead to fantastic dunks. But there are some adjustments I see he could make even tonight. And I coached a player similar to him in college, this kid Justin Simon. Big-time defensive player, wasn't a great three-point shooter. And
slot cuts here.
You don't always have to space. Look at this little slot cut, exactly. Take him off the line. You open up space for your teammate, right? And that could be a predetermined cut or something you do on your own. Once again, they're spaced out, right? Similar to what the Warriors do. Who's this, Powell?
Yeah.
Just slot cut, right? Open up some space. You still have your three-point shooter available on the drives. Here's a baseline drive, baseline drift, right? We got the guy in the corner here. Here's a slot cut for a layup. That's something Kelly Oubre could easily do, Darrell.
Definitely.
And here we go again. A paint drive, Derrick Jones Jr., very similar player to Kelly Oubre. At this point, he didn't like the three-point shot. A nice cut, and you still had your shooter in the corner available for that driver. Once again, look, these are all random plays. This is just a field play. He's in the corner, he drives it. Look, you got to give a player his head. Yeah. If he feels this is a shot, it's okay. There's some people available, but this is not the problem. You know what I mean? He makes shots like that. And I think as Steve Kerr alluded to, his percentage will come along. It's a new system, but there are other things he's been doing to positively impact the team. One of the things on the offensive end, Darrell, cuts are always important.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Steph Curry when he gives the ball up. one of the best things he does is move it out the ball. I think Kelly could incorporate that into his game.
Yeah, a lot of those things don't show up in the stat sheet. Just like you said, making those cuts. We seen Pasco the other night, hit his man for Damian Lee to hit a corner three, a big three. So these are a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet that he can do and he can put in his game. So he just got to be a basketball player and get out of his head, make those basket cuts. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't, but you bring that help defense in there, and now you opening up plays for other guys.
I think that's a perfect example. Eric Pascal's shooting such a high percentage because of his shot selection. He's open at the three-point a lot. He likes to dribble in and take his two. Kelly Oubre, no one's saying don't shoot the three, but incorporate other parts to keep the defense honest.
And then Wiggins is doing the same thing, right? Wiggins is adjusted quicker than Kelly Oubre Jr. here. He's cutting. He's fighting his game here. Get Oubre to cut. And as some of those plays you broke down, LeBron James, a video we didn't show, LeBron James would use this a lot under Mike Brown. Mike Brown, of course, is an assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors. You think Mike Brown is maybe looking at some of that old video of LeBron James saying, you know what, LeBron didn't always make the baskets, couldn't shoot great, but maybe I get Kelly Oubre going like this. Maybe tonight is the night we see some of those slot cuts, as you mentioned, Willie.
I think so, because the reason I came up with this was after watching him, I was talking to Mitch Richmond and one of my assistants from St. John's, Greg St. Jean, and a reference, it made me think of Justin Simon, a really good player that at one point was struggling from the three. What do we do with him? Get him off to get him cutting. And as a scorer, when you're struggling, you want to get a layup, a dunk, or a free throw.
Yes, sir.
And that's one thing that would help him.
Yes, sir.
No doubt about it. Let's hear from Steve Kerr in just a second here as we take a look at the four starting lineups. And the Golden State Warriors have a full roster here. Steph Curry's in the lineup. Andrew Wiggins, who was listed as probable earlier today, he is playing in the lineup, and the Warriors beat him, of course, averaging nearly 18 points a game. To see Draymond there, and maybe Wiseman gets going again tonight against the Toronto Raptors. He had a rough couple games against the Clippers, but he's 19 years old, folks. Yep. He's going to struggle in his first go-around in the NBA, but the man right there, Kelly Oubre Jr., let's see if he can get going here. But around the league, not so many teams had their full rosters. We saw Philadelphia last night with only 6 or 7 guys in the lineup as they got blown out to Denver. Miami and Boston canceled today. Steve Kerr, head coach of the Warriors, talked about that, what's going on around the NBA with the COVID-19 protocols.
Yeah, it's the league is really, I think, doing a great job of testing everybody every day. Our team, I know, has been really disciplined about following the guidelines. And, then at that point, you just have to hope for the best. I know there's people on both sides of the issue in terms of whether we should be playing or not. Personally, I feel lucky to be able to coach and for our team to be able to play. And I feel like the league is putting us in a good position where we're getting constant testing, and I feel safe, but I'm also well aware of what's happening around the country and the world, and of course now with a couple of games being canceled. So it's we've got to remain vigilant with everything we're doing.
All right, Steve Kerr talking about what's going on around the league, and some people are crying and saying postpone the league. Take a break for a couple of weeks. We saw the bubble in the offseason when the NBA restarted and they all went down to Orlando, 22 teams in all here. What is Steve Kerr saying there about the COVID-19? And, I mean, what else can you do here if you're an NBA roster when you're doing all the tests and you're following protocol here, Darrell? What else can you really do here?
I just think being smart, that's the number one things that come to mind. Just be aware of the people you're hanging out with, be aware of different family members, because you don't know what people are doing when you aren't around them, 24 hours. So just be smart about who you let around you, who you're coming in contact with. I know it's an unfortunate thing that the whole world is going through right now. So it's just small adjustments guys got to make to be, a little more careful.
Yeah, and you can do everything right and still contract it, right? Yeah. So on given nights, the safest place in the world is the Chase Center because of the testing. So these guys are making a sacrifice to keep this industry alive.
Yes.
Right.
And as Darrell said, we just be smart, and you do need some divine intervention as well, some luck.
Yeah, you just wonder if the NBA will go back to the bubble format in the postseason this year. Maybe Vegas and Orlando. They talked about Vegas last year. But let's talk about this man right here, Draymond Green and leadership. We're going to get into that, plus more right here on Warriors Pregame Live, presented by Comcast Business.
Warriors Pregame Live is presented by
Comcast Business, and Draymond Green hasn't been shooting the ball all that often, but he has been playing defense, switching, barking, vocalizing, schooling players. And it was interesting yesterday at practice. Kerr Burke asked him if there was any way on educating the bloggers on the game of basketball. You know, a lot of people think they know the game inside and out. This is what Draymond Green had to say about that.
Well, first off, in order to learn, you have to understand what you don't know. And most people don't understand that they don't know, and so they're just and that's just what it'll be. You know, it's like a drug addict. The first step to rehab is admitting that you're a drug addict. And so when you have all these internet sensations thinking they know the game of basketball, they would then have to admit that they don't know basketball. And no one's going to do that. So, yeah, they're pretty much just
Oh, Draymond Green. And you know what? There was about 7 F-bombs in that little 20-second clip there. So we have our very own Draymond Green swear jar. And, of course, referee Zach Zarber there getting an earful for Draymond Green. And you know what? Every time he swears, the panel up here, we got to throw $1, maybe a $5, maybe a $20. But right now, I don't have any cash. I'm the broke boy. You guys thought I looked like Fred VanVleet? Let me throw a credit card or something in there. Or can I Venmo the chart? Is that possible? Can we Venmo?
Take anything, man. my wallet's in Darrell's car, man, so I'm out.
Man, we might have to leave an open tab for Draymond.
We might
Hopefully
need a bigger jar.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, is that jar going to be filled up by the end of the year? Or would it be filled up by the end of this month?
If Kareth keeps getting Draymond going, it's going to be filled up. It's going to be filled up by the end of the week.
Right, for sure, real quick.
We'll Venmo, PayPal, IOU here. Let me write an IOU right now. I'm going to write it on this card here. IOU. Get it in that jar right there, for crying out loud. Drew Schiller had a tweet here of Steve Kerr here yesterday at practice talking about the different leadership styles of Steph Curry and Draymond Green. When Steph pulls a player aside, he sort of whispers and only tells that player. When Draymond Green pulls a player aside, he's addressing the whole team. I really like the combination. Of course, one of our Warriors outsiders, Drew Schiller, there with that tweet. And talk about the different styles here. What do you guys prefer? The Steph Curry leadership pattern here or Draymond Green? When Draymond Green takes a player over, you see he's very demonstrative, he's vocal, and as Steve Kerr said, the whole team hears it, Darrell.
Yeah, when I came in the league, I was 19 years old, so I kind of had to take it from a bunch of guys talking to me either loud or quiet, you know. And I never had a problem with it as long as I knew they were telling me the right information. So majority of your leaders in the league, you know, they're pretty loud like that. So I don't think too many guys take it personal when he's holding you accountable and he also is holding himself accountable. So I think that's pretty common for a lot of teams. Probably not as loud as Draymond, but it's a lot of guys around the league that's pretty loud.
There's all different styles of leadership. And I think the most important thing, you have to be true to your personality. You can't be something that you're not. Right. And you have to back it up with action. Steph Curry is a very quiet, reserved, passionate, more comes from a joyful place.
Right.
Draymond reminds me of Tim Hardaway. You know, Tim was very outspoken, very demonstrative. He was a point guard, you know, much like when Draymond plays point forward. So their personalities, to me, are very similar. And as Darrell said, the most important part is you back it up, yes, and you're also relaying the information that's coming from the coach.
All right. How do you think Wiseman is receiving this information as a 19-year-old? Obviously, he learned under Penny Hardaway, got the tutelage from Penny Hardaway over the last 5 to 6 years, and now you get into the NBA and you have a Draymond Green there. How's it for a young player? You mentioned it, Darrell, being a young player. You had what, Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, GP, I believe. Mm-hmm. How was it for you as a young player, as you just mentioned? Was it tough sometimes on a day-to-day basis? You're like, man, why is this guy all up in my ear? How do you think James Wiseman is taking that information?
I think it was a lot different from taking it from the coaches and then the players, because the coaches, you feel like they're kind of against you. They don't, that's just being a young player. But the players, these are your peers. They're going to tell you things that make you better. So I always listen to those guys like a sponge. Watching this young fella, James Wiseman, he seems like a sponge. He's very intelligent. You can tell he has a very high IQ. And I think he really takes, coaching and leadership well.
Yeah, he has a natural feel for the game, James Wiseman does. And I think at this point in time, he's just getting a lot of information.
Yes.
And I think, as Darrell said, you're watching film, you're getting scout reports, the speed of the game is different, the pick and roll coverage, there's a lot coming at him. Right. So I think from a player standpoint, you want to simplify it and give him what he needs for that particular game to succeed.
All right, that swear jar, we promise it will be filled up at some point this year. If Draymond Green is on the floor, we'll talk more about that. But Steph Curry, the man of the hour here, Western Conference Player of the Week. Will he see some early fourth quarter minutes again like he did Friday night? We'll do that, plus bring in Fitz and Pookie right here on Warriors Pregame Live, presented by Comcast Business. Clippers. We'll talk about that in just a second. Darrell Wright, NBA champ, Hall of Famer Chris Mullin, and Bonte Hill. And Mully, we saw that fourth quarter Friday night. We all thought, man, Curry's out there. Is he going to play the full 12 minutes of the fourth quarter? He didn't, but he started the fourth quarter to help stabilize that game Friday night.
Well, they made a big run to get back into that game, and they had great momentum, so Steve Kerr decided to keep him in. And it was part of a 15-minute, 52-20 run.
Wow.
Incredible.
Right? So that was just amazing. And a lot of good things happened that night, right? They kept them off the free throw line. They got great production from the bench. All those things were awesome. But let's not get it twisted. They made 23s, and Clippers made 14. And Steph Curry had his 50th career game of making 8 3-point shots.
That's
so
wow.
All those other steps were great,
right?
But Steph happened.
Right,
That's what happened.
Right. 9 threes Friday night.
After getting locked down in game one of that Clipper mini-series, came back, made his adjustments, and dominated.
Yeah, and I know Coach Kerr definitely had a conversation with Steph, like, how you feeling? We're going to roll with you for this fourth quarter just to see if they could bust the game open. And I think they did a great job. He was only in there for about a minute, just to see, throw the other team off. And, that bench, they did a great job with taking that lead. Guys hit big shots. Guys were moving the ball. They defended at a high level. So it's always good to throw, the other team off when guys aren't supposed to be out there. So Coach Kerr did a great job at that.
Steph is so rare. Even if he's out there for a minute, that's just 2 or 3 possessions. He's opened up 3 shots just by being on the floor.
Right.
He's helping his teammates. So
talk about the passing, though. You guys mentioned the Damian Lee corner 3 when Pascal made the screen, but that was a lefty pass from Steph Curry. I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? He also had another pass earlier in that game to Michael Mulder in the corner. His passing this year, the assist numbers are up. He's got a lot more uses with the ball in his hands, but the passing of Steph Curry's also been impressive to start the season.
Always been a great passer. Before he was taking, 8 threes and making 8 threes a game, he was a playmaker. And he understands these guys on his team, they can't hit shots, and he trusts these guys. That shows me trust. A left hand across the court pass like that shows me he trusts his guys, and he knows those guys are going to take shots with confidence.
And Bonte, that possession you're talking about, he had Zubats on an ISO off the dribble, but he has seen so many scheme defenses against him. He was surveying that floor like a quarterback and didn't drive into trouble, spaced them out, almost baited the double team, and threw an incredible left-handed skip pass to Damian Lee. And so tonight he's going to see, but Steph has seen every defense that could be imagined. And he's got a great feel for the game. That particular possession was that was beautiful.
It was a special night for Steph Curry, but we didn't really talk much about the second unit in this pregame show. They really helped, not only in the second quarter stabilize the game Wednesday and Friday night, but also in that third quarter run, as you mentioned, the last 15 minutes, 52-20 run, but an 18-2 run to close out the third quarter. quarter, and it was Lee, it was Mulder, it was Pascal. They were all balling in that third quarter here as we get ready for the crossover here with the guys calling the game, Bob Fitzgerald and Kalina Azabruki. And fellas, Steph Curry was special Friday night, no doubt about it. 38 points, 11 assists, had to work for it, but 9 threes and all, and he had them dancing. But that second unit here is really starting to find itself. It's starting to find their roles under Steve Kerr.
Well, if you look at Bazemore and Mulder and Damian Lee, they're making 50% of their threes. And so for the Warriors, that is huge, because I think when a second unit leads a comeback like that, then when you get down 20 in a game down the road, you don't feel like you're out of it. So Steph can lead, but I think everybody else kicking in, that's what was so exciting about that win.
That's huge. And I thought it was interesting the way the Warriors started the game with Steph off the ball and let someone else bring the ball up, because the other team can't double team him off the ball, and you can only switch his screen. So let Steph see some more bodies, let him get into rhythm. And then the second unit, the fourth quarter, I think coaches really gained some confidence in those guys. Eric Pascal attacking bigs. And then obviously when Steph gets back in the game, he's making plays for Damian Lee. Mully, you just talked about him throwing the cross-court pass left-handed across the court, across your body. We just act like that's normal. That's how amazing Steph is. But D, right, if you're playing with Steph, it's got to be so much fun knowing he's going to get all that attention and you're just going to have wide open shots because Steph is that unselfish.
A lot of my threes I made here in Golden State were assisted by him, so I know those guys understand. He's going to be a playmaker. He's going to look for guys. He's a high IQ player. He's going to take what the defense gives him. So guys just got to be ready, down ready, hands ready, to let him know, hey, I'm ready to knock down this shot.
Well, think about, too, Toronto played a 1-box in the finals against Steph, so they already had a gimmick defense. So I want to see what they do tonight, because when you got Van Vliet and you got Lowry and Pascal Siakam and Norman Powell and all these guys, I think Steph dealing with Beverly and a good defensive team with the Clippers almost gets them ready for this Toronto game.
For sure. Steph is a student of the game, and he's watched a ton of film. And you just talked about that 1-box. The Clippers did that, too. Shift the defense all the way over there. But Steph knows he doesn't have to score, right? He trusts Damian Lee, 49% three-point shooter, right? He trusts the other guys, Brad Wanamaker guys, can step up and knock down shots. So he's going to make the right play, don't force anything, and then I still think the rest of the guys can find ways to get him the ball back once he gives it up, Molly, don't you think?
Well, I think what's happened over this homestand is they've established an identity. Once Draymond Green got back in that starting lineup, that got solidified. And now their bench with Eric Pascal playing the backup 5. You got Kevon Looney. Fitz, you talked about the Bazemore, Michael Mulder, and Damian Lee knocking down threes. So I think we've seen they've established their identity and how they have to play to win.
Fitz and Buki, let's see if they can improve to 4-2 in the 7-game homestand. It looked tough before, but the Warriors can clinch a winning homestand tonight against the Raptors. Take it away.
All right, well, I tell you what, when you think about Game 6 of this homestand, the one thing with Toronto is don't look at the Raptors' record, because last year they had the second-best record in the NBA. 2 years ago they won the championship. So a little bit of a slow start. They're playing all their games in Tampa. Don't underestimate the Raptors.
Super dangerous. And just trying to find themselves, reestablish that winning culture that they had. You mentioned the championship experience. And for the Warriors, avoid a letdown. Insane win last game. Come back, maintain that high-intensity defense, and then the flow offensively.
Well, we got to see that comeback. When you come from 22 down against a team as good as the Clippers, Steph Curry led the way, and then he got a lot of help from his friends.
He made all the right reads. The defense is solely focused on this man. But he had 38 points, and he's getting all the assists. They started him off the ball, let someone else bring it up. Less bodies on him, work off his screens, get open, get your rhythm, and then he brought him back in that third quarter, put him on his back.
All right, we throw too many numbers at you, but when your bench is plus 102, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Stay ready. That's the motto. That's the mantra. Guys are ready to knock down shots. Obviously, Steph is going to make plays for his teammates. The defense is focused on him. He draws the defense, kick it back out. Mulder, Damian Lee, Bazemore, Wanamaker, all knocking down monster huge shots.
Well, we have figured out with the Warriors 5-4. In the 5 wins, Steph Curry has averaged over 30 points. When he doesn't reach 30, the Warriors haven't won a game. So 30 for 30, that is the barometer. He gets his jersey number, and the Warriors are undefeated.
He's going to do a lot of it himself, but I still think his teammates can look for him more when he gives it up, right? He's unselfish. He's making plays for you. Let's look for Steph give and goes. When he runs towards you, step in there, set a screen, see if you can get him an open look.
Well, you think about Friday night in the NBA. The Warriors came from 22 down to win by 10. The Raptors, well, they flipped their game by 40. They were down 19 and won by 21. A franchise best 144 points in beating the Kings. Yeah, they have a championship from 2 years ago. Toronto and the Dubs, the boxing one and slowing down Curry. Bonte, Mully, and D. Wright will talk about it coming up next.